Hey guys, welcome to Goa Jazz Academy's live. We're just waiting for a couple of people to join, and then we will introduce the guest and start with it. Okay, so I think we can start. So our guest today is Sahil Vasudeva. He's a classically trained pianist, and he's got a really wide repertoire, and he is agreed to make the playlist for us. This is the volume 21 of Goa Jazz Academy's Your Sunday soundtrack, and it's been a crazy journey so far. Like 21 different people have made playlists for us, and it's all sounded so lovely. And it has also helped us listen to new music from around. One second, let's just invite him. We're just waiting for him to join, and there he is. Hi.
Hey, Siddharth.
Hi, can you hear me clearly?
Yeah, what about on my end?
Yes, all good so far.
All right, worked
Okay,
out.
it's great having you, and
Yeah.
thank you for generously making this playlist for us. So the purpose of this playlist is so that we get to listen to music that we usually don't get access to. You know, as musicians of different disciplines, we listen to music that primarily influences us or that sounds good to us. But it's nice to go outside the circle and listen to other people, what other people are listening to, and what other people generally draw influences from, and
Yeah.
that helps us widen our own repertoire. So, for those of you who joined us now, this is Sahil Vasudeva, and he's a classical pianist who is migrated into different pastures, and he has moved on to doing innovative things and taking piano to the next era, so to speak, if I may say that. So let's speak about the playlist to begin with, and
Yeah.
I actually really enjoyed your playlist.
Cool.
I'm not particularly a piano listener, so to speak. Like I don't listen to a lot of music that's primarily based on a piano or based
Correct.
on keys as such. But this is such a refreshing twist for me personally.
Cool.
I got to listen to a lot of cool music, and a lot of my favorite artists are in it, and which I found it really surprising. Like Tigran Hamasyan, Derek Shernian,
Wow.
etc.
Yeah.
Are some people that I absolutely love listening to, and
So
I
you're
was
a prog guy, huh?
yeah, quite a bit. And I see the progressive influences in your
Yeah.
playlist as
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
which
Some
is such a
Hiromi
great
I
thing.
threw in there. And actually, it's funny because I've actually suddenly, over the past year, I think I'm becoming a bit of a prog head because like
Right.
all the new music that I'm exploring and piano is like more like progressive. So I'm like, shit,
Okay,
maybe I've always had that itch, but I think I'm sort of now getting into it a little bit more.
sweet. So I wanted to ask you, was it really hard making this playlist? I know you mentioned that it's a piano only, like a piano centric playlist,
Yeah.
but was it hard in terms of leaving out some tunes, or like for example, you were saying that you were getting into prog, etc.
Yeah.
And do you feel like you left something out, or do you feel like
Yeah,
there's
man. I
some?
actually, to be honest, when I started making the playlist, it went over 2 hours because,
Oh
like,
wow,
I mean, obviously, I wanted to throw in some classical influences. Then I wanted to, like, sort of
right,
have a little bit of a journey going into some neoclassical, some contemporary, and even some electronica based piano. But also, like, I think each of the pieces and each of the composers, there's like a little bit of a story which is like sort of personal to me. So I wanted to make sure I sort of bring the performer and the composer and their character sort of
right.
intertwined with the journey of sort of piano, like
Of
because it's such an old form and, it's constantly being sort of reinvented in a way also, or exploring new ways of performing it. So like a lot of
right,
processing techniques, a lot of synthesizers, so like I just wanted to give like sort of a wide array of what the piano can do, because a lot of times we sort of limit it to Okay, jazz trio, classical pianist, contemporary pianist, progressive.
Right.
But what's
Yeah.
cool is that the centric focus is like this instrument. It's so diverse, and it like
Right.
it can do anything in that sense. Because I think it's like percussive, it's chords, hammers, strings, and
Right.
obviously I have a personal bias to the instrument. But and like
Fair.
strangely over the last year, a lot of people asked me also to make a lot of like piano playlists. I think a lot of people when they were like in quarantine or in isolation or when we were in lockdown, the piano sort of really hit home for a lot of people as like a sense of comfort.
Right.
So like like a lot of people you won't meet them be like we don't like the sound of the piano. Maybe you're included
Right.
in that, but maybe we'll bring you to the other side now.
Right. No, I think I am looking forward to listening to a little more of this playlist. I mean, it takes a while to get used to that sound,
Yeah,
especially with Nils Fram. Am I
yeah,
pronouncing
yeah.
that right?
Nils Fram.
So
Yeah.
that's something that I haven't heard before.
Hmm.
Like you
So
said,
he's
the
like,
versatility of the piano, I don't think even I was aware of it. I've
yeah.
heard the traditional use of it, like a postmodern use of it, but I've never seen it used in the way that it was being used
Yeah,
with
yeah.
especially
He's like probably one of the guys who's like pioneering a lot of this direction. I mean,
right,
he's like firstly one of my like favorite artists and most like really inspiring. That's why I sort of
right,
started the play with him, because
right,
he has really got me also into this style. Um,
right,
dramatic. At the same time, he uses a lot of processing, a lot of
hmm.
effects, a lot of synth work, and he also builds his own piano and stuff.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah, man, he's like doing some incredible work. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, you should definitely check out his.
I can see he's the only person who's made whose two songs have made into the list,
Oh, yeah.
you know?
Actually, I didn't notice that. Good, good. You
Right.
got an eye for
Right, right.
detail.
So
Because I was
I
like,
could
shit,
check
how
out
do I pick one track of his? And then I was
right,
like, I have to put in another one. And I think I
right,
picked my Forest, my friend, or my friend, the Forest.
right,
Because that was
right,
also, I think, a little more like, we've been talking also about, our role with the environment and in it over the past year. I think it's sort of come into the fray since we sort of, since the pandemic hit. So,
right,
that's primarily more also, it's like I love the sensibility in that track. So it's like,
right,
yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Each track has a little bit of a like a story. That's it.
right. And do you care to mention a few more artists that you actually didn't add and you really wanted to? Something like that, so that our listeners can get a little bit of, a little extra, so to speak.
Um, I would say I was gonna do some more classical stuff, like a little bit of, but I didn't really get into like I wanted to include some more Rachmaninoff or Chopin or Beethoven that have also influenced me. Also to look at how they've influenced the current generation of artists.
Right, right.
Artists that are like maybe could have had more of is Hania Rani. She has a second
Oh,
track
right.
on it.
Yeah,
She's
yeah.
actually an artist that you should definitely check out. Like I've been exploring her over the past few months. She was one of the discoveries that I got over the past year. Very like Nils Fromm zone, but like check out her if any of the viewers want to. Live from Studio S2. It's a great performance on YouTube.
Right. Live from Studio S2 by
Yeah,
uh,
Hania Rani. So she's a Polish pianist.
yeah. Okay.
And I think, I mean, she's doing some really cool stuff. Has some really good videos as well, also. So like it's
Right.
like a very good combination of like cinematic style, classically trained, but doing things in a contemporary way.
Okay. I was hooked the first like 30, 40 seconds. I was already hooked into that track.
Yeah.
But yeah, I will go back to this and listen a little more. I'll probably check out these artists. Anyway, so the playlist clearly describes like your influences as well, the wide range. It starts from classical piano, it goes into progressive playing, and then it also goes into a very modernist structure of how it's being used, like you said. And from what I've seen on your Instagram and some of YouTube, etc., you're also into a lot of visual projection and
Mhm.
theater etc. So my first question to you is, I'm guessing you started as a classical pianist.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I studied classical piano, but like I, in college, I majored in like economics and math, and
Oh
I first
wow.
became a banker, and then I actually worked so like music was, when I was playing music, it was never with the idea of like doing it professionally or as a career. It like
Right.
came much later in my life. And then
Okay.
I somehow wanted to go back to classical. And then so I sort of trained and studied for like 2, 3 years quite a lot. I even
Right.
played with a band in the middle with somebody, Rasa Sardarji, who's actually typing right now. So I
I
even had
see.
a rock and roll band in the middle called Stop, Drop and Roll. And then after
Okay.
that, I sort of moved back into solo piano and sort of exploring that side. So
Right.
yeah, training and foundation definitely in classical piano, but I would say I've never like really seriously studied it in a conservatory or anything. A lot of self-taught.
Right. But what got you into it in the first place? Is it something that you did in school, or like how? Like actually, let's go a little even further behind and find out how piano. Like what
Hmm.
brought you towards the instrument, number one. And when you say like being in the country that we are, Western classical musicians is not dime a dozen.
Yeah,
It's it's
definitely exists.
it's
Yeah.
it's it's as rare as it can possibly get. You
Yeah,
know,
it's the
like
worst decision ever to make to try and do it professionally.
yeah. I mean, at least especially here,
Yeah.
especially here. And so, what got you into piano, and how did you
Yeah,
start?
so I think that's brought more like to my parents. So I think when I was like 7 or 8, I have this memory. Like my mom went to the hills, and there
Right.
was this like British couple who was sort of, I think they were letting their piano go. It was like a baby grand,
Right.
and so my mom was just like, "Yeah, I'll take it." And I think I
Okay.
remember they drove back with like from a tempo, they packed it in, and they came back with this like baby grand. And like, it's such a large instrument. So like, even walking as a kid, you can't ignore it. And it's like aesthetically this grand thing. So it was like sort of in my subconscious, like it became associated with home. So then
Right.
obviously I started doing lessons, and then my mom went to the like States at one point and brought back a lot of like classical music CDs. And I
Right.
have this memory of her like playing them, like in the morning, like, like these Rachmaninoff concertos and like
Right.
Tchaikovsky and stuff. So I started maybe internalizing some of this music, and I enjoyed it. I really did. But like then when you're like 10 or 12, I used to go to my teacher and be like, I want to go play cricket. And like I would never practice nothing because you wanted to play rock and roll. Yeah. Like it wasn't cool to like play classical music, it
That's
wasn't like the
right.
anything. So yeah, and then in the middle I stopped playing, I think. Then I went to
Okay.
college and I had a small scholarship to study piano with like a private teacher there. But I
Okay.
didn't do it. I had a band in college also. And it was
Right.
like a really diverse band. But again, we were doing more like progressive rock.
Right.
And then I think it was just my own thing. Like after I quit my job and I was like, I want to like try music. I didn't know what exactly music. And I think
Right.
because it came from inside, like I found a lot of depth in classical music, then the structure, foundation in playing, working on technique, form. And then I
Right.
wanted to compose. So I think the trajectory was always that, you have to put in the hours to learn the theory. So I did all those
Right.
exams, training, hated them. I had a good teacher in Delhi, this Russian teacher.
Right.
So yeah, she helped me. And then so that's the thing. Like it sort of came to me personally when I was like 26. And usually the trajectory is like, a lot of classical playlists, classical playlist pianists, they get forced into it. So by the end of like 15 and 20, they're like done with it because it's so based on virtuosity and
Right.
mastering the instrument. And
Instrument.
it's
Yes.
and it's so challenging and it's so hard on the hours that a lot of people get defeated. So in fact, a lot of the
Right.
performers that I've chosen in the playlist have also been people who have actually sort of given up on piano but that they haven't given up on music because they gave up on piano. So, it's important to drive that through is that it's not only about virtuosity here, which is what happens in classical music a lot.
Right.
And I've recently even myself, like, experienced that a lot. Like, so I lost track of what exactly we were getting at, but like, yeah, that's how I got into the piano. And then it sort of,
Yes. Yes.
I love the instrument here. Like, there's just like,
Right.
it does something to me, like mentally and spiritually. It's just like the
Right.
relationship goes. So yeah, man, I just love the instrument, I think.
So if I had to ask you virtuosity or sound, what you would be willing to find, and you would choose sound?
Soul. I would
Soul.
go for
Right.
soul any day.
Soul.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, if anybody, I think like that's what even like if you play with passion and feeling, man, I mean that's what has to come through, right? I mean that's true for any
Of
art.
course. Of course.
And like it could, I mean, even Beethoven actually used to say that it doesn't matter if you play all the notes incorrectly,
Right.
but if you play without passion,
Right.
then you're gonna get a slap on the wrist,
I mean, besides, I think it shows if you like what you do, it will show in the things you do.
Exactly. I mean, see, at the end of the day, it's like any language, like it's an expression. Like
Right.
you have to, you're expressing something which is intangible, right? You can't touch it
Right.
or feel it or see it. There are no words. So if
Right.
you're not able to communicate that to the listener, then I think the communication just falls flat. So, I mean, obviously, I think the most important thing is not about like flair and yes, those are important things for the instrument, for your technique. But I think
Right.
as teachers, I think the most important thing is to like bring out like the soul in the music, right? Because it is the language of the soul in that sense.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree completely.
Yeah.
I think it is the language of soul, and you need to figure it out that way.
Exactly.
Yeah. So at what point did you turn into a professional? Like, at what point did you realize that, okay, I've had enough of playing by myself, but I need to actually take this somewhere, like, And one other question, this is on a side note. So were you
Yeah.
ever into Rush and Kiss, etc., back when you were playing with your prog rock outfit?
Not as much Kiss, but yeah, Rush I used to hear. But
Right.
I mean, I was a lot into DT as well at that point. Uh,
Right.
I had that more the Floyd, Pearl Jam, that growing up Metallica, GNR,
Right.
that school.
Okay.
But yeah,
Okay.
and the Who and things like, and the Doors, of course, man. Like I used to a lot of
Right.
Rayman, like I used to play a lot of Doors, so I
Right.
was really influenced by that sound. But then like Chopin, like sort of kicked in the other side of things. Like I remember I went to college in the States and I used to like sleep to like Chopin's like nocturnes. And like my
Right.
roommate used to think I'm crazy, but I used to play them on loop every night for him while he was sleeping. And he was like, this a white football player. And he was like, dude, who's this fucking Indian guy? Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. So when I
nice.
decided to sort of
So
move
yeah,
into
so
it
how did you decide to
professionally,
make the switch?
process, yeah, I think
I
it
think we have
sort of came a lot from this urge, I think, or this itch, like I was telling you, that I hadn't scratched. Uh,
right.
But I was then, once I decided to quit my job and I was like, yeah, I'm going to do music. I remember the next day waking up and being like, now what the hell, man? Like, I was just so defeated because I was like, there's nowhere to play. There are
Right.
not even any pianos. There are no venues. There's no culture. I mean, so it's like really overwhelming at that point. But I mean, man, I don't even know. Just like got to mentally stay sane. I don't think I've managed that, but I'm trying. But my own thing was like, I need to sort of develop my own style and voice. Otherwise, there's no, I mean, even at this point, like, even the indie music scene there's nothing really, concrete or something you can bank on. There's no infrastructure as such. There are no institutions which are supporting artists. So it's
Right.
really, really hard, man. Like, I mean, you know that as well. Like, it's you
Yeah.
got to do everything on your own, and it gets to a point where it's not sustainable actually.
Right.
So I don't know if I have that answer that yes, I wanted to do it because I love it, but professionally, it's just really tough. But the thing is, like, for me, my personal thing was that I need to like work on developing a performance style and something which I can add, because I didn't want to just go on a stage and say play classical piano with, people like not knowing if to clap or not wearing a bow tie, sort of remove all those, and it doesn't even exist in India. So you know what I mean?
Right.
So I don't have the answers for you, but the thing is, yeah, just work on like new styles and ways of presenting music. Because then I think maybe if people can relate to you as a performer,
Right.
then maybe that can happen. So that's why I've sort of tried different things. I mean,
Right.
but yeah, man, it's the reality and the truth. And now the pandemic has even made it. That's why we're talking on Instagram now.
Right. 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 So now that we are talking about the pandemic, how did you keep yourself busy during that time? Like, I mean, obviously there were no gigs. Everyone were bound to our desks and homes and walk around inside somewhere. But how did you,
Yeah.
what did you do during that time? How did you get your creative juice running?
Man, to be honest, I didn't have it for a while. Like everyone, like sort of felt the trauma. So like I remember, I don't think I just stopped playing for like 6 months, I think, and I just couldn't get myself to do it
Right.
because I was just like already I was like, okay, now what, man? But yeah, now I mean, then you work within that. Yeah, you work. See, at the end of the day, it's a battle in here, right? So
Right.
you're constantly dealing and fighting yourself, really. So yeah, so now what I've been doing is I've been figuring out, I'm working on my album right now. So I've
Right.
written about 50-60% of the way through.
Okay.
So yeah, next step is I'm going to be recording it. Just trying to figure out where to record it, how.
Right.
But yeah, that should be
When can we expect this album?
out early next year, man.
Early next year. Awesome.
Yeah. So I'm like,
Okay.
I've written most of the music now. Now I need to
Right.
figure out the production. So yeah, I'm trying to highlight a producer, and because I'm trying to also, I'm including some like processing, like very similar to some of the artists that you've heard. So I'm trying to keep
Right.
a little bit in that zone, trying to figure out my own technique around it. But yeah, it should be out soon. Yeah, I'll send you
Awesome.
some.
For sure. Looking forward to it. But for those of you who joined us a little late, this is Sahil, and he's an amazing pianist, and he's going through a lot of styles in this playlist. So the playlist is up on the Goa Jazz Academy Instagram page link. So just click on the bio, and you can hear the playlist. So continuing from where we left off. So you were talking about the challenges of becoming a classical pianist in a place like this. First of all, picking it up itself, is something that, if you ask me, it's unthinkable. That's what I would say. But after having gone so far, so you're also trying to experiment with other stuff in the music. It's not just music, but it's a whole experience, right?
Yeah, I think for me, I think it's important. Like you got to be able to tell a story. So like usually when I sort of look at it from that perspective, I think. So every piece should be able to, you know, and I also grew up doing a lot of theater and things like that. So, I think for me, it came quite naturally to be able to, sort of work with different forms. And I mean, it's limitless here, actually. Like, why do we have to only look at a performer, an instrumentalist, and their instrument?
Right.
A musician is just not that, right? I mean, it's that it's like infinite, right? In that sense, like you can, like I'm interested of doing things with poetry, with dancers, with film, anything, like, so yeah, I mean, that
So
way.
have you dabbled
Like,
in, sorry.
yeah.
Yeah, continue, sorry.
So I kind of tried to dabble a little bit in that with the Un-Recital, which was like a show that I wrote, which sort of it touches upon this, but I'm fleshing that out also a little more now. So since it's basically like a story which is based on like my personal experiences. So in that sense, it's like a performance which will keep growing and I'll keep evolving. So look I mean, yeah, man, I'm always looking to like collaborate with other like media and things like that.
So, where can we watch this Un-Recital? Because I saw the trailer on YouTube
Yeah.
and I was really
Whenever
intrigued.
we can, whenever live starts again, if it ever happens again, man.
Okay, so it wasn't a recorded event.
No. I've actually performed it over 2 years, and
Right.
so I did the first round of performances at Oddbird Theatre in Delhi, and then a
Right.
year later I actually did another version of the same performance, and then I actually got to perform that at the Opera House in Bombay as well, which was like
Right.
a really cool experience for me.
Okay.
So yeah, man, whenever things are like a little more,
Right.
I mean, I wonder if there are any venues anymore to begin with. But yeah, that's definitely another like project that I'm working on constantly.
Would love to catch you in the act sometime at some point
Yeah, man. I might be moving to Goa soon, so it's
Oh
in the
wow.
work.
So there.
Yeah,
So it just got closer.
yeah.
All right.
I mean, I'll be chilling with my man Karun.
All right. So one thing I missed out was this playlist is available on Spotify, Apple Music, and on YouTube. So if you're a very loyal customer to one of it, you'll find it. But if you're just looking around, you'll find it in all four. So please go for it and check it out. You won't regret it. The other thing is, so your
Thank
visual
you,
process.
Sleep by Day.
All right, there you go. So somebody who was there,
Yeah,
I'm
that's
guessing.
cool, man.
Right. So talking about visual projections, uh, I couldn't help but draw some comparisons from what I saw with the Un-Recital #1, and I was also checking out some of your other videos and other work on Instagram, some glimpses on Instagram and things. So I was, correct me if I'm wrong, but I saw a lot of Mahaliana type in terms of visuals, in terms of just the visuals, in terms of lights. So how did you get into that aspect? Because that is so far away from your discipline in terms of just writing music. So like the reason I'm asking you is it took a long time as a musician for me to just get into the aspect of production. Mm-hmm. Like to draw the line between I'm a performer or a producer. Where am I? Like where do I fall in this? So how did you decide where to go and how do you go about it?
I mean, like I said, for me, it was never like a decision that, okay, I'm going to do or attempt to do it this way. It was like quite instinctive and impulsive. I mean, for me, it's always been like visual element has always been part of my composing or in my performances. I mean, I don't see them as separate, like
no,
there's
I
some
mean,
disturbance happening. Is that coming on mine? Okay,
sorry.
go on. Yeah, so there's some audio disturbance, I thought.
Right. So my question actually was, so it's not exactly intuitive for somebody to just get into lights.
Okay.
Or in terms of just visual projection also. So it has to have come from somewhere. And secondly, obviously one has to study it at some level to be able to do what you're doing. It's not you go on day one and you're just like, yeah, my mood brings out this color and I just add this, or this video works well, or this setting works well. How did you get into this? Were you always into photography, or did you have some kind of education in this field?
No, man, like that's what I mean, I did a lot of theater that like I was saying when I was growing up, a lot of exposure to theater. So, and also, I mean, I watch a lot of film. So like, I mean, I think for me, it was always like the idea was to, when perform cinematically in some way.
Right.
And I mean, the thing is, I just see such a, like the synergy between light, visual and music. I mean, I don't need to talk about that. That's like obvious. I don't have any training in it as a sense, but like when I first started playing the piano, like I remember my first performance was actually at the Delhi Photo Festival. And they were like, okay, we want you to collaborate with 2 photographers. It was curated by a friend of mine, Saurabh. And so, I sort of jumped into already working with like photographers as sort of my first performance. So, and that's what I'm saying. Like for me, it was just like, I actually think a lot of work needs to be done on that front, like in terms of the light design and visuals. But I work really closely with anybody like the light designers or
Right.
the visual artists. A lot of the
But
visuals I've done myself, but I mean, they need to go to the next level for sure.
right.
Yeah.
So
So yeah,
I
that's going
mean,
to be part of the next round of when my album comes up. It's going to be like an
right.
audio visual experience. It's not going to be just audio for sure.
Oh, right. Wow. Okay. Fantastic. The thing was, so to have a vision is one thing. To bring that vision to life is something else. It's easy to dream. Everybody
Yeah.
dreams. But to
Yeah.
make something happen. So my where I'm going with this is back to the lights and sound thing. So you will
Yeah.
have to at least at some point decide, well, I look at my music this way. Like my music is conveying such and such a message, and I know what goes with it, but how do I put it together? This is something like the technical aspect of it.
Yeah, I mean that's like it's a good question. Yeah, that's like kind of like knowing your process, right? I mean, as
Right,
an artist, you want to eventually know what your process is, and I think you're
right,
constantly figuring it out and exploring it. And I don't
right.
think that I don't know if I know it yet. Right now, it's just very like I told you, it's very instinctive for me to.
Okay.
In somehow, I don't want to define it. You know,
Right.
because if I try to articulate it into words, I don't know. It just there is something, there's some switch, and you just go with your gut on that. I mean, that's it.
Right.
But the thing
Right.
is, like, what I would say is that for any new people, like whoever young, like kids
Right.
who are like starting to perform, you have to independently produce your stuff. I mean, I think
Right.
that's the thing, and you have to be willing to lose some money because when you start adding lights and you start adding sound, nobody's paying for that for you. You know, so like a lot of shows I've done, man, where I've ticketed them, I end up losing, I mean, some money on them, or I break even. But the point is that, I mean, it's a marathon, yeah. You have to run in India, okay.
Right.
So
Right.
there's no
Of course.
other. You have to just somehow, I don't know, man, just hang in there somehow.
Right. That's really cool. I mean, I hope whoever's listening to it takes positives out of this, because it is hard being a musician as it is, but how to putting it, like, like bringing your vision back to life is very rewarding, as you
Yeah,
can tell.
for sure.
Also, there's a question that we have. When you're putting together a project, how much time do you spend on the piano in a day?
Uh, I don't know if there's like a fixed amount of time. Like you want to be able to get into a regimen of like obviously practicing your instrument every day for a couple of hours, which never happens after you stop taking lessons. And but like if I'm working on a project, then that's it. I'm like fully focused on that. Like I don't meet anyone. I don't think about anything
Right.
else during that time frame. Like I'm very like obsessive in that sense. So like,
Right.
yeah, I'll focus on like whatever it takes for me. Like I could be up and I usually sleep really late and I prefer working at night. But yeah, I mean, I
Right.
think the first important thing is like obviously developing like a regimen for your practice. And it's really tough,
Right.
man, to keep going. But yeah, now like I'm more interested on the composing side of things. So I'm like exploring a lot of production techniques and like researching that as well.
Right.
But if I'm working on something, then that's it. It's like I'll silo in and I'll just narrow down on that and like
Right.
I'll just do it at the demise of all the other people who are around me.
All right. Well, but I don't think you could have said it better than that. But yeah, so the other thing is, so recording stuff. Like, you have to record what you're playing. I'm guessing life's changed so much in the last 20 years.
Thanks,
You
Mo.
so you had to go out to record your music at some point, but now everything's coming home. The how do I put it?
And you can't
The
even really
era.
get to the studio right now, yeah. You gotta feel,
Sorry?
I mean, to get into a studio right now, also you have to feel a little comfortable with the
Right.
pandemic and everything.
Right. No, yeah, the other thing, that's what I was getting to. So earlier, the whole process of record labels used to direct how people did something, but now that era is bygone. And if the one thing that I have noticed, the trend that I am noticing, and I've been noticing for the last about 12, 13 years, is that independent artists, I don't want to say indie music, but independent artists, people who are producing their own music, and they don't go to a recording studio and have a studio engineer per se, and they learn all of this stuff. So how did
Yeah.
you make that jump into realizing, okay, you know what, it's now on me? Like at some point, I'm sure there was
Yeah,
a
man,
time where,
see, that's the whole thing. Like, it's not only that it's like you're just like laying out all the challenges, but like you can't, I don't think it's very tough now to just look at with the digitization of everything to,
right,
just be an instrumentalist and go and form. I don't know if it can, where, I mean, where that future lies anymore. So you
right,
have to sort of throw yourself into it. And
right,
the other flip side is that if you want a certain sound and a vision for it, at the end of the day, only you are going to be able to achieve that, unless
right,
the producer, is completely matched with your vision. And I think that's a
right.
very, very tough match to find.
Yeah,
So, so it's two ways. Either you compromise a little bit on the sound that you want. But the thing is,
right,
for me, I struggle with that because I like hate working on a computer and doing it like that, like music on a computer. So for
right,
me, it's like, I don't, for me, I'm more interested in the performance element and not focusing on sound. I actually have a
right,
little bit of a music is not sound, you know. And but
right,
the thing is, when you start going into production, you start focusing on the perfection of sound,
right,
which I think sort of somehow removes you from the process of music in a way, because you are constantly looking at perfecting a certain sound rather than
right,
what you are conveying in the music itself. I don't
right,
know. I
right,
mean, this is obviously can be debated, but I
right,
mean, I think I drive myself nuts. Like when I just I can't make decisions on production because it's
right,
like to like a Walmart, and then you're just lost in the abyss of all the VSTs and all the synthesizers and all the production
right,
technique effects, and then I don't end up completing anything. So for me now, it's actually to again like battling with my own head. It's just like now I'm like work on my demos. I'm like, okay, I know what I want to get. I'm gonna work with a producer, but also I'm learning through the pandemic. Big thing is like how to let go. Just
right.
gotta let go somehow.
I
I mean,
think that's an important lesson that musicians in general,
yeah,
I personally feel have to learn, even myself including. How do you, for making decisions? Yes, it is a choice. Like you have two things, and you'll always have to choose one.
yeah.
And you're always going to look ahead and say, like, what if I'd chosen that? You
Exactly.
know,
And
at
you
some
can always do it differently. I mean, that piece
yes,
of work can never, it can be completely different the next day.
right,
But the thing
right,
is, I mean, that's what like, I think big learning from me now has been like, and I've not released any of my music. I have like so much music lying, but it's just been like this thing. I don't know what it is. A lot of musicians also experience self-doubt and stuff to want to
right,
put out. It's like a very like vulnerable thing to just suddenly put out this because then it's going to be critiqued by everyone, right? So
right,
first you have to make that, then you have to like make sure that, but I think just got to let it go. And then later on, like, you know, it's never going to be the same. It's like what you played in this day, tomorrow you're a different person. That's it.
right. No, it is an important lesson, and even I'm learning as I'm traversing through time. I'm also learning like how to let go and decide, make a decision, and say, okay,
Yeah,
this is what
yeah,
I
yeah.
do.
Yeah, but I think it's important here, like to also maybe, get somebody like who you trust to maybe
Right.
listen to your music or because, production is also really important aspect and you can't just do it in like 6 months or a year. And,
Yeah.
that's like a science in itself. Yeah. That's why like the
It's like learning an instrument.
amazing artists, they don't produce their own stuff. There is a
Right.
reason why there is a producer, right? But that producer is able to replicate what or match that artist's vision. So, and in
Right.
India, it's like it doesn't exist that much, that culture. Like,
Right.
in America or in Europe, you have a vocal producer, you have a drums producer, you have an FX producer. I mean, here it's just like, anyways, I want to keep it positive. So yeah.
Right. So the most important question, considering we are in an educational institution, that is Goa Jazz Academy,
Yeah.
and I wanted to talk about, like, I wanted to ask you if your field, or the way you have gone through your playing, like what you have done with it, has that been influenced by your teachers or your mentors in any way, or is that something completely innate?
Yeah, I mean, like what I was saying, like I wouldn't say it's really like focused, influenced by my teachers as much.
Yeah.
And first, quite a tag student. And I still am not comfortable actually with the tag of being like a classical pianist actually, because like, yes, I perform and I've learned classical music, but I'm not like a voice on it. Like I'm very like unorthodox in that sense, because like I've learned by myself, by hearing other performers, things like that. For me, I think it's personally been like the experiences that I've had so far, the limited experiences that I've had. But for me, it's constantly like drawing from those, because only then can you have something, resonate to your listener. For me, it's always focused on the emotion and the sensibility. So like for me, the training is actually trying to develop more of a sensibility rather than, really honing in a lot on the playing, because that is, I mean, at the end of the day, you realize if you're going to start playing at 25, 26 and want to do classical piano, it's tough. Like, it's only one or two people in the world probably have done that. I don't know. But yeah, you got to just find your direction in it. So like things which like you are honestly impacted by. I would say like if you keep it that simple, then you can draw the complexities within that. But for me, it's more always about, let's focus on like the emotional quotient of music.
Exactly. Fair enough.
I don't know if that answers your question. And
yeah,
by the way,
it does.
in case one of my teachers is logged on, no, you guys helped me a lot. I didn't mean that.
So I actually had a chat with another person like many months ago. He's someone that I actually look up to, and he's, in my opinion, revolutionized music in a way. And I was talking to him about this exact same thing, and he said, I think innovation is a very personal choice, and it doesn't come from somewhere else.
Yeah.
Like people teach you to do things, but how you do it completely depends on you.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, how are you going to teach someone how to feel? Yeah.
Right. Fair point.
I mean, I can put a hammer and gun to your head, but like at the end of the day, I mean, that's not really going to. Yes, you can slap someone's wrist and get them to play your scales, and you can work on speed, and you can work on dexterity, and you can work on how supple your wrists are and to relax your shoulders and everything. But that's just like a medium to what you want to do. That's not the end,
Right.
That's just a tool to achieve what you want to say.
Right. Good point. I just wanted to find out that aspect. And also, how was your experience in studying in Delhi School of Music? And also, how was your experience in Denison University? I'm guessing I'm not sure, but you studied music in Denison University.
No, economics and math, man.
I wasn't sure. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
So how was your experience doing either? Like, I mean, to go from such a field and say, okay, I am going to close this down and go after something else. That's a hard choice. Like you said, letting go is one thing, but it's also a hard thing. It's a hard choice to make. How did you go about it, and how was your experience with Delhi School of Music?
Yeah, so I think like when I started playing in Delhi, I had a bunch of like private teachers. There was this teacher in Delhi who I started with. So, it's important to like first obviously get into, like I kind of did enjoy classical music. I won't lie. Like, and I always like, even when I was like 7 or 8, I would start like trying to like write my own tunes or something. And then I worked at Delhi School of Music. I mean, I studied at Delhi School of Music for a couple of years, gave a few of those exams and stuff. but I was doing a lot of other things in school. So like music was never my focus as such. It was always like sort of in the background. Um,
Right.
but I always loved, I mean, I knew I had something like some affair with music, you know, with the piano, to be honest. And then when I went to college, I studied with a professor, Dr. Harper, and he sort of got me a lot into listening. So I started, like I told you, I started listening to Chopin a lot then. And like I remember listening to Chopin really got me into like classical music. Like something was hitting. Like, I mean, I don't know. I just like sort of, you know, those I felt the vibes a little. But at that point, you know, you're studying and like any Indian kid, you want to get a job after, man. You want to, you know,
Of
pay off
course.
college loans and stuff. So there's no other choice. So I took up a job in banking, but in college I played with an interesting band. There was a Pakistani singer, there was a Turkish drummer. We had an American vocalist, we had a guitarist, and I was Indian. So it was really like we did songs in Urdu, English, and Turkish in like a small ass town in Ohio where like all the people were like, what the hell is going on here? But yeah, so like, you know, and I knew that I was giving all my focus always to music. Then I came back to India. I worked in like the development field for a while, but I would come home from my job and I would sit with like Logic and start like, you know, messing around. And I started doing some like scoring for corporate films and all.
Right.
And then one day I told my boss, I hope she's not online, but I told her I want to study like my MBA. And I actually quit my job. And then I was like, okay, I want to try and give music a shot. I was like, I didn't want to be like 50 and be like, I never tried. So I was like, what's the worst thing that could happen? Like the worst thing is that it won't work out and that you'll end up like going back to like, you know, the box and sitting in jail and slaving for like 10 hours a day trying to make money.
Well put. Yeah. Well, it is what it is. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But so yeah. So for those of you who joined us now, we are talking with Sahil, and he's a pianist. And just check out his stuff on his Instagram, and you'll get a better idea of what we're talking about. The playlist is on the link in the Goa Jazz Academy page. So check that, and you will hear the playlist that he's made. It's available on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, and yeah, I think the three of it. Also, how was it working with Nitin Sawhney?
Oh yeah, that was so. This was actually so. There's this residency that I've been doing for a few years at this amazing wellness retreat called Vana in Dehradun.
Okay.
So I've been an artist in residence there for like 4 or 5 years, and it's really like the most serene and amazing place to like just go and like compose or perform. And he
What
was
is it called?
an artist in residence there, and
Right.
we sort of ended up running into each other many times. And so
Right.
he's like somebody who I look up to as like a mentor and friend. And then he was invited to sort of perform at Vana for his tour that he was doing, like a special performance they curated there. And I was just helping in production. And he was like literally like, "Do you want to play this piece tomorrow in the performance?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, sure." So he's like, "Okay." So he gave me the MIDI data for the piece, and he's like, "Yeah, just learn it by tomorrow." And I was like, "Shit, okay." I remember going back to my room and I like stayed up like a few hours, and then like I learned the piece, memorized it, and then like we performed it the next day. I mean, he's really amazing, like in that sense. And he's like, I would like we started hanging out, so I would like show him some of my music, and he would give me like insights into what I can do differently. Like he's very versatile. He's trained in Western classical piano. He's trained in flamenco, and he's also knows production really well, and he's also trained in classical Hindustani classical. So I mean, he has a very vast array of like soundscapes to draw from. So yeah, it's someone like who I like definitely look up to in terms of like I hopefully like give me some feedback on my music as well. But
Right.
yeah, that was
Amazing.
a really cool experience. Yeah, like really down to earth, great guy.
Right. Amazing. Amazing. So we have come to the end of our session. It was it was a great chat.
Yeah, that got a bit intense, huh?
Sorry?
That got a little intense.
No, well, it is. So my job is to find out from you how you do your stuff,
Okay, you're doing a good
and
one, man.
and the other one is I also get to learn a lot because musicians share a very similar journey, and a lot of it is unspoken understanding. I
Yeah,
know this is happening with you as well, or I know this is happening with someone as well, but it's never spoken about, seldom spoken about. Let's put it like that. And it's good also for our viewers to kind of understand where each person comes from and what they go through, like while writing the stuff that they do. And the other thing is, music has been perceived as, at least where we are, the country we are in, music is perceived as a very traditionalist culture, at least the local music that we have around. And
yeah,
it's interesting to meet and talk to people who are pushing that envelope and doing things beyond what is understood as acceptable. Let's,
yeah.
to keep it simple. So yeah, it was a great chat. I learned a lot, and I hope our viewers did
Yeah,
too.
man, I had a
And
great time talking to you as well. You're a great listener also, and uh, I like how you just like put the questions out there, and then like I sort of just jump into the whole.
thanks, dude. That was fun. That was fun. I hope to see you in Goa soon when
Yeah,
you're
I'll
here,
definitely
and
hit you up there. I
we
mean,
hope to
I'm
have
pretty
you at
sure
the
I'll be
academy.
hanging out with Karan quite a lot, so uh,
Yeah,
I'll definitely.
it'd be great to have you at the
Yeah.
academy and
Yeah, we
hang
did a
out.
performance in Goa actually last year with Karan and Divya at this really cool venue in Goa. And
Right. When?
yeah, this
What
was
time was
right
this?
before the pandemic, like February. That was the last
Ah,
performance that I did was
right,
with
right.
Karan and Divya. And it was amazing. Forgotten the name of this place, but it was in this like Portuguese house.
Right, right. I think I missed it by a few days, so to speak. I
Yeah.
moved to Goa like at around that time, so I'm guessing I missed it by
Yeah,
a
man.
few
I
days.
hope I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out. So yeah. Let's see.
All
I
right,
mean, there's
man. All
nothing to
right.
do here anymore, yeah, in Delhi. So I guess.
So- All right. Hope to see you. Hope
All
to see
right,
you
man.
here and
Have a
hang
good
out.
weekend.
But
Yeah.
yeah, have a good weekend and see you soon.
Yeah. Thanks for having
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time out to do this. See you.
me. See ya.